7 white potatoes because 7 is a lucky number. We salt them and boil them, and we're ready to go. Hi there, and Happy New Year 2020. We are preparing a special New Year's Eve dinner tonight in order to say goodbye to the old and ring in the new. And so, of course, that means we are going to celebrate by doing some cast iron cooking. And we're going to be using a combination of vintage and modern cast iron, just because we can. So for starters, we have some potatoes boiling up here in a vintage Wagner aluminum Dutch oven, only because I found this Dutch oven to be the best water boiler that I have ever had. These things are nice and done now, so all we have to do is simply cut them up and then we will fry them in none other than a vintage number 10 sized Griswold cast iron skillet. We need to have plenty of room for the potatoes to move around, so we need a big pan for that. While the potatoes are frying, we will be heating up 2 other pans to get ready for part 2. And as they say on Rick and Morty, and away we go! Once the potatoes are softened, we simply cut them into large pieces and then fry them up. Boiling them in advance ensures the potatoes will be thoroughly cooked, and so we will definitely have well-cooked potatoes. December 31st, 2019 also happened to be the 10-year anniversary of an event that changed my life when I crashed and totaled my car during a snowstorm. It may seem strange to consider the 10-year mark from a car accident an anniversary, but I'll explain that in a little bit. It's certainly something I'll never forget. Now we take these off the heat and move on to the star of the show. And that would be a Finex number 12 cast iron skillet. I did say we'd be using modern as well as vintage, and this is one thick and heavy pan, which makes it the greatest pan in the world for searing 2 New York strip steaks, 1.5 inches thick. We dry the steaks off, and then we coat them on both sides with just a few drops of corn oil. Next, we give the steaks a good coating of kosher salt, and that's all the seasoning we need. And here is where the meat hits the pan. Because there's nothing in the world that will sear a steak better than a blazing hot cast iron pan. We'll be flipping the steaks every minute to give a good crust to both sides. And now to explain what happened on December 31st, 2009. That was when I discovered I needed a new car, and I learned this when not 1 but 2 cars smashed into my car in the space of 2 minutes. It happened during one of those sudden, intense snow squalls that appeared from out of nowhere, and it turned the street I was driving on into ice in the span of about 1 minute. I was already going slow enough that I slid off the road onto the sidewalk and into a street light pole, which didn't do too much damage to the front of the car. However, another car behind me slipped on the same ice patch and sideswiped me on the driver's side, taking off the driver's side mirror. I got out of the car to check on the other guy, and it was a good thing I did because the third car also slipped on that ice patch and slammed right into the driver's side, crushing the door inside. If I'd been in the car, I certainly would have been badly hurt. But as it turned out, no one was hurt in this accident. The insurance company simply declared the car a loss, and they waited another 6 months before sending me a notice that they were canceling my insurance. And that was the beginning of a series of personal events and drama that ended up changing my entire life around, including the beginning of my interests in cooking and in cast iron. And now we can enjoy the beginning of a new year with a medium rare steak and some seasoned potatoes. If you ask me, this is one of the best ways to celebrate the beginning of something new. These steak knives were a wonderful gift from Jeff Rogers, the culinary fanatic. Barely takes the slightest amount of pressure to cut through a thick, medium rare steak. I hope you've enjoyed this New Year's adventure as we begin the year 2020, remembering an event from 10 years ago while cooking up an excellent steak with both vintage cast iron and brand new cast iron. It certainly helped to begin the year on a high note, and it was definitely better than New Year's Eve of 2009 or even New Year's Eve of last year. And now all I can do is thank everyone for taking the time to watch this and to wish you all a happy new year and many exciting adventures ahead.